let me introduce you. Well, I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Daniel Black. I'm a conductor, composer, guest conductor, and music director finalist with the Great Falls Symphony Orchestra. Um, and very excited to be working with an old friend and fabulous musician who is on the other side of the screen here. And that is Dwight Parry, who is principal oboe of the Cincinnati Symphony and has performed with fantastic orchestras and chamber ensembles and you name it all over the world. So, Dwight will be our guest artist for the season finale performance of the Great Falls Symphony Orchestra, performing a very special concerto called Les Belles Heures by Guillaume Connesson. So, welcome, Dwight. I guess to my podcast, which exists as of now.
We're inaugurating a podcast. That's awesome.
Apparently so, yeah.
I can't wait to see you. We just don't get to connect as much as we want on a personal or on a musical level, and it's always so wonderful to collaborate with you.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, and it's actually, we were doing the math a little bit before recording, and I think it's been like what, 13, 14 years since the last time we actually performed together.
Far too long. And that was the Von Williams oboe concerto.
Yes, the Vaughan Williams Oboe Concerto, which up until now is the only concerto that we've done together,
Yeah, we
which
said
is,
it twice.
I mean, it's very good, but there's something to be said for branching out a bit. Um,
Branching out into something that is super new and yet somehow also feels familiar because the language is so resonates with what we think of as impressionism and lyricism. And so I'm really excited to share this piece.
Yeah, well, let's get right into it then. So we can talk a little bit about this. This is a very special piece, not just for the oboe, but for you personally. And once again, the concerto is called Les Belles Heures. And tell us a little bit about how this concerto came to be written. It's a brand new piece. It was premiered in 2022, I believe.
That's right. Yeah, May 2022. Um, After many delays, sort of COVID related delays, actually. And then finally we got it off the ground and gave that premiere. Um, so I was really privileged to be able to commission a new work to be premiered with Louis Langret conducting and the Cincinnati Symphony. And Guillaume Connesson um, just wrote this awesome piece for oboe, and I think it's got legs. It's as I said, sort of lyrical and impressionistic. Um, Very much what I would want from an oboe concerto, like in every sense.
Yeah, and well, one of the things the oboe is maybe not featured in front of the orchestra as much as we would all like. When you go to
Especially
see a
me.
yes, especially if you're you.
If you're an oboe soloist, you want to play oboe solos.
Yes, yes. Funny how that works. But like in terms of oboe concertos that have real, sort of staying power, there's really only a handful. We mentioned already the Vaughan Williams oboe concerto. There's also the Strauss, the Mozart, and that's just about all that I can think of.
Kind of. It's hard to compete with the breadth and depth of repertoire in for the violin or the cello or the piano. It's absolutely true that there are myriad wonderful pieces written for oboe solo with orchestra. And I recently performed a piece by Alyssa Morris called Dreamscape for oboe and full orchestra, which is fantastic. And again, every time I play a piece, I think, oh, this is my favorite new concerto. It's a good place to be in as a musician. When you're doing it, when you're in the throes of the music, that is my very favorite thing ever, and I'm completely invested. I know you feel the same way. Like when you're on the podium, that's the piece of your life for however long it lasts, and then you move on to something else.
Right. Well, but this piece in particular, the concerto by Guillaume Connesson, um, not only did you play the premiere, but you commissioned the piece, and you had the opportunity to actually, sort of in some way help to shape how it came about. And so tell me what it was like actually working with a living composer
Yeah,
and having this opportunity to really to from the very beginning of the process to bring this to life.
yeah. Well, I selected Guillaume Connesson because of a history of just knowing his music and loving this style, this impressionism, and I see Guillaume Connesson as kind of an evolution of that French tradition that goes all the way back to like Fauré through Debussy and Ravel, through people like Dutilleux and Millot, and so there's humor, there's adventure, and even in the title, the Belles Heures, which means the beautiful hours, the different movements sort of tell a story of falling in love and the blue hour and the exquisite hour in the second movement, which is so sensual.
Mm.
And then the fleeting hour that life is just getting away from us and you've got to grab every moment and sort of a carpe diem. And so it's super high energy. Working with Guillaume was great. It was deeply collaborative. His first approach to me was to ask me to send him samples of my playing. So I sent him recordings of things that I like to play and other concertos, and also just my sound. And when he first sent me some notes, I don't know, it was like Christmas morning. I got it in an email and I printed it out and I started playing. And I thought, oh my god, it's like it's just sort of speaking through me. I felt that his language resonated with my personality so well, and it, of course, anyone and will play this piece. Everyone should play this piece. But it felt so personal. It felt like he wrote it for me, and I was just vowed right then and there to make the most of it and to play it as much as I could. So this performance with you will be my fourth, I think. I performed it most recently in South Africa. Wonderful.
Yeah, so really a brand new, hot off the presses treat that we're able to bring to Great Falls, Montana, which I think is fantastic. Yeah, and it's interesting, like just going back to the title of this piece, Les Belles Heures, and heure in French means hour, but it also kind of means time, like so,
Right.
like it's not just like this hour of this exquisite hour, but it's like sort of this exquisite time,
Yeah.
this moment, this period of the day or of life, you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
What an exquisite hour it is when you get to commission a beautiful concerto like this and bring it to life. Um, so uh, we maybe should talk just a little bit about our history and collaboration a little bit because this
Absolutely.
is
We have known each other a very long time.
yes,
Have
and I
been
want to
beautiful
talk to
hours, all of them.
indeed, yes, indeed, and I want to talk about that a little bit in the context of you mentioned the last movement, the fleeting hour, the fugitive hour, you might say. Um, that's and that is this movement is really wild. I mean, the first two, I think you can very clearly hear that connection, like as you mentioned, to that French tradition. And Connesson, of course, is a French composer himself. But in this last movement, it gets like kind of jazzy, and like all of a sudden, I feel like we could be like sort of on the street of New Orleans somewhere, and I I know why this might have occurred to him because I've known you actually since before you played the oboe. For
Yeah.
spoiler alert for those of you who are Dwight Parry fans, he did not start on the oboe. He actually started on the saxophone, and so that was our first contact way back in high school. Actually, you were playing a saxophone, and as far as I know, you played jazz. Even occasionally still play it once in a while.
Oh, absolutely.
So was that part of this composition commission inspiration at all,
Well,
or?
I mean, I think so. I mean, think Guillaume and I just saw eye to eye on that. So it started with me telling him that I play the saxophone. I have an interest in jazz, and I can do whatever you might want me to do. Like, don't hold back with the style or
Yeah.
the technique. But he also loves techno music, and there's a strong tradition of jazz in France, which of course goes back into compositions, even to Ravel, as you mentioned, and George Gershwin famously went and tried to study with Ravel, and so there that kind of popular idiom is sort of endemic to that French style, and so that last movement is jazzy, it's techno, it's hard hitting, and it's really, really fun. There's even this kind of moment where it's almost like someone's thumbing their nose and bana, 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 bana. A great trumpet solo that happens. I love it so much. And I have a funny story about that. Um, Guillaume had sent me the whole piece, and my only real criticism was in the last movement. I said, Guillaume, I love it so much, but honestly, it's just maybe not difficult enough, like flashy enough. Can you maybe, is it okay? Are you willing to do a little bit more? And he wrote me back immediately, and he said, "Oh my God, I'm so relieved. I wasn't sure, it's an oboe. I've never written the big thing for oboe before, but you tell me that I can do it, so I'm going to do it." He had actually already written some stuff, but he was afraid to send it. So
Huh.
he sends me like a day later a new part for the last movement, which is dramatically more difficult and acrobatic than the first one. And for a moment, I regretted saying anything. But what are you gonna do? So I dived in,
Yeah.
and
Careful what you ask for, right? So.
exactly, like it stretches the technique of the oboe in terms of the register, the speed. But it's the kind of writing where it's worth it. It's worth putting in the work because those notes are not frivolous. It's not lost on the performer or on the audience how important all of that activity is. When you get to the end of that movement, I want to jump out of my seat if I were sitting down.
It's really a thrilling piece. I think it's a fantastic piece, and I have high hopes. We'll do our part here, but I have high hopes that this is a piece that could really enter the repertoire for oboe concertos. You know, at the very least, to give us a little break from Mozart and Strauss and and Vaughan Williams.
Sure. Yeah, I think probably every composer and probably every performer that gets to collaborate in this way has high hopes in terms of the legacy of a piece and the longevity of a piece. Um, but when we're on that stage together, it's just all about what we're doing in that moment and what our audience is receiving. And I hope that we do it a million times, but I also hope that just this one night feels like it could be the one and only, and then we're gonna do the most with it.
Yeah, that's true, and that there is that sort of dichotomy when you're in classical music where you have this sort of legacy and tradition and all this stuff. Some of the other composers on this program, Dvorak and Schumann, who've been loved and performed for centuries now. But at the same time, there's also this concert, this one moment, this tonight's
Right.
performance, and we're trying to really reach people on an emotional level and offer something for the soul and for the ears, for the heart. Um,
Yeah, it could be 4 years old, it could be hundreds of years old, and it's just a living art.
Indeed. And this piece, I think, will very likely be the first time anyone in the, including the musicians in the orchestra, will have heard this piece. Uh, but I think it's the kind of piece that you can really, really dive into immediately. This is accessible. It touches you on an emotional level. There's certainly a lot of compositional skill and advanced harmony and technique in the piece as well. But personally, as a composer and as a conductor, when I love doing new music, but my priority when I'm programming something like this, and this piece seemed like such a natural for that, is to find something that has that emotional level, has something to say,
Yeah.
and it's not just it's not just a technical showcase for the composer, like, look how good I've been trained and how good
Yeah.
my technique is. And
Yeah. It's
um,
like prioritizing the experience of our audience in the way that we perform and the programming choices we make. I mean, that's really what it's about, right? I almost think of myself as sort of a servant. I'm here to share something, to give something. And the minute anybody's ego enters the equation, I think we're kind of lost.
Totally. Well, and technique is all about serving something else. Like, I mean, we work as musicians. We spend our whole lives, like trying to get the best we can be, the most technical perfection, and all of this. And in your case, making the best reads you possibly can make. And
Well, that's part of it. I mean, maybe for those people who are watching this and don't really know, um, the oboe is a double reed instrument, and I don't actually have it out. I probably should.
Oh,
And yeah, the reed is something that I make by hand, um, which is somewhat of a tedious task. It's a craft, not an art. You just have to do it.
yeah.
But one thing that I've come to embrace about being a reed maker is that that's a huge part of my sound, which is a part of my identity as a musician. And no two oboists sound alike, because they're two pieces of wood that you scraped yourself by hand in between your lips. There's no plastic or metal between your body and the vibrating medium of this cane. And so it's extremely personal. It's very flexible and very unique and individual, that each player has that specific sound.
And even from one performance or one day to the next, because you have a whole rotation of reads, right? They don't last super long. I mean, how long does
Yeah.
a read last, roughly speaking?
Well, I try to make them well and quickly and have them last. And I'm very happy to say that I'm getting good at it after all these years.
You're making progress.
I'm making some progress. But for like, I'll make different reads for different purposes and to bring out different qualities, or a composer has different demands, or even in terms of the sound style, perhaps French repertoire versus like Baroque, like modern French versus Baroque repertoire, or Brahms. So in that sense, I'm always making adjustments. But when you're playing a concerto, you have to do everything. And
Mhm.
so I'm going to make my instrument function so that I can have that entire range of color. And that's mostly the kind of read I make anyway, but you bring out something special for when you get on stage in front of the orchestra.
Right. Well, and I guess how we got onto this track is like all of this technique goes towards playing something expressively or playing something in a way that is has some kind of punch to it, some impact on the listener. And and this years of refinement and training and experience, all go into being able to make a read that does exactly what you want it to do, and that just like lights up in just the right way, and just for the repertoire that you're working on.
Sure. Well, what you said a moment ago about the purpose behind it, the purpose behind all the work that we do and studying and preparing to finally get on stage and share that music, and focusing on the expressive parts of that. I think that's fundamentally why you and I connected artistically back in high school so well, just playing duets together. It's like neither of us wanted to prove something. And I got from you just a genuine musical sense of collaboration and expressivity that made me want to play with you all the time. And I think that's partly why we became such good friends.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's so, our friendship goes back to high school, since literally since before you played oboe, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. I played back in those days. I was a flutist more than anything else. And so we were sitting right next to each other in orchestra and band and stuff. And, we've got some very old photos of that and slash, cool slash embarrassing slash cute, I guess. But yeah, and so from those initial collaborations playing together in orchestra, band, whatever, then we started doing um, duet performances, because there's an awful lot of music written for either two flutes, two oboes, or you can very easily mix and match.
Revolutionary. Yeah.
you know and so so we were playing, and actually got our professional beginning with
Yeah.
this
I
because
made my first dollar as a professional musician with you right next to me.
right. And yeah, and that was at a restaurant that had agreed to give us lunch and let us play for tips.
That's right.
And at the age of, I don't know, 16 or whatever, that
Yeah. I think
that
it was
seemed like
15. Yeah. Yeah.
a pretty good deal.
Even looking back on it, I think it was a great deal. I mean, I can imagine a better way to spend an hour than playing music with my friend and then getting a free meal out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think we walked away with, I think we averaged, I don't, $20 a piece or something like that. Maybe 30 on a good day.
Yeah, that was a pretty good day, but I was
Uh
happy just to do it.
yeah. And that was back in, I mean, it was back in the 90s, so it was worth a little bit more than it is now, but yeah, so and I think everything that you said, I reciprocate as well. One of the things that I have absolutely loved about your playing over the years, and has been just the level of expressivity and the level of artistic commitment and risk taking, that goes into it. And sometimes it can feel, as a classical musician, like you're trying to be, like the goal is to be perfect, right? And we've all known that kind of pressure of, it's got to sound just like the recording, and it's and we've, I think, all experienced performances that, as a result of that, became kind of tentative. So I think that we both value the approach to performance. We're really going for expressivity, and we're really going for, what does this music mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to impart to the audience. That's why we do this.
Absolutely.
And of course, we try for perfection. We try as much as we can to be technically solid, but technique without expression is not the whole picture.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I remember something that one of my mentors, Michael Tilson Thomas, said when I was a fellow at the New World Symphony. He said that your audience basically will never know if you got all the notes correct. They'll never know like the little minutia of intonation, the kind of stuff that we stress and obsess over. But if it's the first time to a concert or the 500th time, or they know a lot about classical music or don't, every audience member can always tell if you're really there for them, putting it out there, laying it on the line, being deeply expressive and connecting with people. They'll always be able to tell that. And that has to be what it's about.
Yeah, indeed. One of my mentors, Victor Yampolsky, put it a little bit more bluntly. He said, "Don't play boring."
Don't play boring. I could get a tattoo that's a don't play
Yeah,
boring. It's a good idea.
yeah. He said, "If you play boring, audience will get up out of their chair, go across the street, and check into movie theater."
And isn't that part of what we're trying to do is get people away from their screens and into this authentic, live, communal experience, which we are so starved for today.
Yeah, indeed. And I don't know if perhaps I'm not representative of the average, but I find myself so often these days, on a screen some way, not even really sure how I got there, you know, not particularly enjoying the experience. And yet it's just like almost this compulsion. And it just feels so great when you get out of that and you see a performance live, you
Yeah,
listen to music, read a book, read some poetry.
yeah,
Um, I think in the modern world we have to find ways of reconnecting with that live interaction. That's what makes us that's the great part of humanity, right?
100%. And I mean, this technology exists. We're using it now, and we're leveraging that to build some enthusiasm to get people to come and share an experience with us live. And to that extent, I think it's wonderful to be online. But when it takes the place of a live experience, then I feel a little sad, a little empty.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and yeah, you're right. There are so many wonderful things that we can do thanks to this. We're
Right
we're
here.
partaking of that right now. so and it is a part of the modern experience. Part of being alive in the 21st century. Um, but it should be something that complements and augments the other parts of our lives. And so for that, things like live music performance um, are just irreplaceable and incredibly valuable. And you get something there that you can't experience in any other way. So we are getting a little bit short on time here, but I am so excited about this performance coming up. Been working on this piece and studying it. It's also an interesting challenge from the conducting standpoint. Um, Bringing a piece like this to life that maybe the orchestra has never heard before. Certainly, very unlikely that anyone in there has played it before. Um, New for the audience, but it's such an exciting challenge at the same time. We get to start with a blank slate, and that's something, we could maybe in the last couple of minutes here talk a little bit about that. The difference between playing a piece for the first time and playing a piece that's really a repertoire piece, like, and we could talk about this in the context of these other, really famous oboe concertos that you've performed many, many times, and have been played hundreds and hundreds of times over the course of the years before that. Um, that experience compared to absolutely ground zero. There is no way to play this piece, to
Right,
interpret this piece.
right.
You're it. You're setting the table.
Yeah, it's interesting because when you play a new piece, you can feel like you're at sea a bit, and you just have to trust your instincts, trust yourself and your colleagues to create something that really works. And then when you play something that's very, very familiar, the challenge is different. It's how do we make it sound like it's brand new? It's
Yeah.
stale, it's not tired and true, but instead it's living and as though someone wrote it today. It's that fresh. And
Mm.
so when, for instance, a piece I play a lot is the Strauss Oboe Concerto, and I love it deeply. Every time I do it, I don't listen to myself in recordings. I don't listen to any recordings. I pick it up and try to put on this mindset of an amateur, a young person looking at it for the first time. And I play it and I learn it anew. With the Connesson now having done it 4 times, it's starting to feel really, really comfortable. And that's both a really good place and a dangerous place. And the good place is like, I've got this, I feel like I can get on stage and just play it right now. But the dangerous place is that I don't want to do it the same way I did it last time. And I don't ever want to feel just kind of comfortable. I want it to be on the edge. And I know that Guillaume Connesson also wants his music to be on the edge all the time. It's like really like electric.
And techno, you might even say.
And at the end, very techno. Yes.
Um,
I know.
did
I
you
wonder if
have,
our audience has any idea what to expect when we say that it's like techno. It's not
well,
techno music, but it's got like this, and the oboe's going. It's
yeah,
wild.
well, we could maybe see if we can edit in a couple of seconds of that
Yeah,
music
just a
from
couple
the
little clips here. Yeah,
because it is really like thrilling music at the end there. That last one is it's got such a great groove to it, which
yeah,
yeah, you can kind of see the techno, but you can also see like sort of a jazzy kind of conception to it. But
definitely.
uh, last question about that is, you talked about the working with a new composer. Did you actually get any feedback from him as you were rehearsing the first time for
Oh,
the world
yeah,
premiere?
absolutely.
Was he
So
present?
yeah, yeah. Guillaume came to the premiere. He was there all week, and he spoke virtually no English. So at first, we had this coaching session where I had Louis Langray, our conductor, and Guillaume Connesson, the composer, and me. I'm just standing there playing it solo because there's no piano reduction. It's brand new. And
Yeah.
so I had no real context for this. I'm just playing my part. And I wish someone had recorded that whole experience because I can live it in my head. Guillaume is making these gestures and talking and speaking French mostly, and
Yeah.
just like more this plus this, and Louis is kind of translating, but really it's mostly gestural. And by the
Mm.
end, I'm like physically exhausted from trying to move with these guys. And then maybe I can share this video with you. During one of our rehearsals, Guillaume is right there on stage. I'm playing something, Louis is conducting, and it just was so collaborative all through the process. So and then he came for the performances, and he wrote me a beautiful note that was very appreciative, and said he thanked me for making it so French.
Well, I think for a French person, that is the greatest compliment you can possibly receive.
I'll take it. It was
Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. What an experience, and what a wonderful performance this is going to be coming up here with the Great Falls Symphony. I am super excited about it. Um, very, very, very delighted to be working again with my really great friend and long-term colleague and musical fellow traveler Dwight Parry, guest from the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, the principal oboe of the Cincinnati Symphony. And with that, I think we'll wrap it up, and hopefully we will see you all at the performance this coming May 9th in Great Falls.
I can't wait.